Once again, welcome to everyone gathered to worship this day, this celebration of Easter. And thanks to those of you joining us on Facebook Live. It's good to have you with us on the live stream as well. Death and burial rituals go way back in time. Different cultures, different societies, different regions, different areas had different ways that they approached how they took care of death, and different rituals that they took care of people who had died. And when you came across someone from a different culture, from a different society, from a different region that had different rituals than you did, well, you just didn't care. That was their thing. It was irrelevant to you. Death was irrelevant to you. Those rituals were irrelevant to you. And so it was a not uncommon practice to humiliate, to disgrace your enemies by desecrating the areas that they had been desecrating their graves, desecrating their burial sites. And I wonder if that isn't what Mary had on her mind, possibly, as what was going on. She walks up to the tomb and it's empty. Is she wondering, is this yet another extension of the humiliation, of the disgrace, of the dishonor that had been shown to Jesus? Was this one more step in the process that had begun with the wildly screaming crowds and continued through the actions of the Roman authorities as Jesus is arrested, falsely accused, tried and convicted, and ultimately crucified? Is this a continuation of that humiliation? Is Mary wondering, is this just one more thing? As it happens, it's not how it plays out, as you and I know. But when Mary is there, when Mary Magdalene walks up to the tomb and finds it empty, she's a little surprised, to say the least. A little confused and concerned about what's happening. She's anticipating finishing up those burial rituals with Jesus, whom she'd seen crucified and whom she had laid in the tomb. It's a bit of a surprise, to say the least, that the tomb is empty. And so Mary runs off to tell Simon Peter and to tell the other disciple that Jesus loved that the tomb is empty. And you got to kind of wonder, what does that conversation sound like? How does one start the tomb is empty conversation with other people who had seen Jesus crucified and buried? Fellas, the tomb is empty. No, really, it is. And what does that sound like? And how do you respond? Simon Peter and the other disciple that Jesus loved, they go cruising over to the tomb and they see that it's empty, and they look inside, they notice that the burial wrappings that had been on Jesus' head, they were rolled up neatly and set there. And then they, go home. Mary, though, in her steadfast faithfulness, she sticks around. And as she is standing there weeping, she is comforted by a couple of angels. And as she stands there weeping in her steadfast faithfulness, Jesus comes to her. What an encounter that must have been. What would that be like to have the man that you had seen crucified, the man you had seen dead, and the man that you had helped bury, walking up to you and speaking to you? Verse 15 of our reading, we hear, Jesus said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you looking for?" Supposing it to be the gardener, like you do. She said to him, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away." Jesus says to her, "Mary." Mary is understandably upset as she stands there at the tomb. As she stands there looking into the tomb emptied of the crucified Christ's body. When Mary asked then, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away." Don't you at some gut level want Jesus to respond to Mary with, "Made you look"? Because the resurrection of the crucified Christ. The humiliation, the death, the return to life of God in human form has got to be some sort of cosmic April Fool's joke, does it not? There's no way that this can happen. There's no way there's not a voice intoning, "Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain." There is no way this could come to pass. It's as if God has a sense of humor and is telling an unsuspecting humanity, "Made you look." That's not how it played out. There's no one saying, "Made you look." There's no one saying, "Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain." There's no joke being played on unsuspecting humanity. There's just the reality of a man they killed, and the place they buried him is empty. The tomb they laid him in has no hold on him. Death has no hold on him. It would be easy to dismiss the empty tomb as another act of humiliation, further disgracing Jesus and his followers by taking his broken and lifeless body from the tomb where he'd been laid. It would be easy to dismiss the empty tomb as some sort of cosmic prank with God yelling, "Made you look," at an unsuspecting humanity. But there are some details that indicate that this is no human activity and this is no prank. Verse 6. Then Simon Peter came following him and went into the tomb. He saw the linen wrappings lying there, and the cloth that had been on Jesus' head, not lying with the linen wrappings, but rolled up into a place by itself. The wrappings are rolled up. There's some intentionality here. Those interested in continuing the humiliation and disgrace and dishonor of Jesus and his followers, they wouldn't have taken the time to be neat and orderly. Those interested in exacting a simple prank on humanity wouldn't be interested in being neat and orderly. You'd simply do what you came to do, possibly trashing the place on the way by, and off you go. Instead, we get the impression that there is something else going on here. There's a resurrection, and it's no cosmic prank. It's a resurrection with purpose. It's a purpose that continues today. It would be both easy and understandable to look back over the span of 2,000 years and think, well, neat. Glad that happened. I'm happy and relieved, both happy and relieved that Jesus died for my sins. I am forgiven, and I have the promise of eternal life through his resurrection. Cool. It would be both easy and understandable, not to mention cool, if that was the case. And that's all there were. But the cross event is not a static event that happened 2,000 years ago. The cross event is an event that continues to this day, to this very moment. That's good news. That's very good news. In a world where it can seem like everything is going to hell in an Easter basket, it's very good news to have Christ present with us. A very real presence, certainly experienced in the bread and wine, but a presence, a very real presence that surrounds us each and every moment. In those times of celebration, those times of lament. ELCA pastor in Colorado, Nadia Bowles-Weber, writes something to the effect that God reaches down into the mess of our lives and pulls us to new life. That's what Easter is. The promise of resurrection after crucifixion. The promise of life after death. The promise of new life after all the mess. Thanks be to God. Amen.